strengthened, changed paths, and devastated Savannah, Georgia. Yet man's thirst to manipulate Mother Nature only grew.
We shall propose further cooperative efforts between all the nations in weather prediction and eventually in weather control.
With giving babies.
Mary Holland is with Children's Health Defense, a nonprofit that advocates on public health issues, including weather control.
I mean, President Johnson back in the 60s said very openly at a public address, he who controls the weather controls the world.
Johnson, vice president at the time, was speaking at Southwest Texas State University about the promise of weather satellites.
That will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
After that, the government's Project Storm Fury seeded hurricanes in the 60s and 70s with mixed results.
Scientists working on the project were convinced that they could reduce hurricane devastation using a process called cloud seeding. By spraying the thunderclouds inside the hurricane with a chemical called silver iodide.
The U.S. also secretly weaponized weather control. The classified Operation Popeye dispersed silver iodide as smoke from flares on airplane wings over Vietnam during the war to extend monsoons and turn enemy supply routes into mud. When exposed, after many denials, there was global outrage, followed by a UN treaty banning hostile use of weather modification. Today, there's cloud seeding in 9 states, but the government delineates many other techniques to make rain or snow, suppress hail, build clouds, eliminate fog, or reduce evaporation. With fire or heat, applying powders, sprays, or dyes to water surfaces, emitting radioactive particles or ions from towers or aircraft, using shockwaves, sonic booms, or explosives, and steering lightning with powerful lasers. And perhaps the most debated category, solar radiation management to dim the sun and cool the planet. Methods include stratospheric aerosol injection, injecting sulfur or other reflective particles into the stratosphere, and marine cloud brightening, dispersing seawater spray to make low clouds whiter. Believe it or not, it's all barely regulated. A 1972 federal weather modification law runs on an honor system, just paperwork, no verification. In most states, no permits, no audits, no limits. Most anyone can control the weather for profit, altering other people's rainfall or snow without ever asking permission.
No one's denying that the technology exists and that it's even being used, but it's who is using it and for what purposes, and can you stop a storm that you start? And then the dimming of the sun. I mean, there's a huge effort to protect the earth from the effects of the sun, and to think that maybe we know better with how to make our planet a more sustainable place to live. And I mean, I don't agree with that, and maybe your neighbor does or doesn't. However, is this something that we should trust other men with to influence the landscape that we get to raise our kids in?
Hi, my name is Andrew Song. I'm the co-founder of I Make Sunsets. We launch reflective clouds into the stratosphere to cool Earth. The eventual mission of Make Sunsets is to reverse global warming. It works.
Make Sunsets sparked outrage by selling cooling credits, releasing sulfur dioxide-filled balloons into the stratosphere in the U.S. and Mexico to dim the sun. As a result, Mexico banned geoengineering nationwide, and the EPA promised to investigate.
Concerned Americans have urgent and important questions about geoengineering and contrails.
In July, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin said the agency has begun confronting weather modification controversies.
Instead of simply dismissing these questions and concerns as baseless conspiracies, we're meeting them head on. In fact, EPA shares many of the same concerns when it comes to potential threats to human health and the environment, especially from solar geoengineering activities.
As for contrails, the EPA has said it's not aware of any used for weather control. At least 13 states have bills pending to restrict contrail use anyway, or other tactics. Weather control bans recently passed in Tennessee, Montana, and the Sunshine State, Florida.
We see things in the sky. It's like, what is that? Is that geoengineering? You know,
Florida Surgeon General Dr. Joseph Ladapo.
we're actually working right now with some scientists to do some testing in Florida of the air, of the water, of the soil, to try and get a sense of the levels of some of the compounds that have been implicated in geoengineering, just to be able to have some starting point for thinking about a problem and scoping the problem.
After the 1916 flood, San Diego refused to pay Hatfield, saying his rainmaking went too far. A court ultimately called it a wash, ruling the disaster was an act of God, not Hatfield's doing. A century later, man is still working to perfect an inexact science, claiming credit for successes, but brushing off any disasters as nature's fault. The EPA says the Trump administration is currently figuring out whether Congress needs to act or whether a different federal agency should take the lead on weather modification regulations. Ahead on Full Measure.